freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my...
Because I have a dream that my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
Hello everyone, I'm Jensen Denoyes here for a Hero in You special, the Martin Luther King edition. And we're here to celebrate Martin Luther King's Day. And I actually have a special guest with us today. And I am truly honored to introduce you to Dr. James Bruce.
Your pleasure.
Yeah, Dr. James, thank you for coming.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
Yes,
you
wonderful,
too.
wonderful year.
And yes, indeed. How was the New Year treating you so far?
Every day is great.
Nice.
I'm so happy we're here in 2025.
Right.
It's a lot in store. It's a lot behind us that will stay behind us.
Yes.
And looking forward to it. I'm very optimistic about, because we understand to a large degree what we're facing.
Right.
And of course we don't know in absolute terms, but we have an idea of something, the changes that we have to brace for.
Indeed, indeed. And so change is very important. But before we start, I'd like to know about you. Please tell us about yourself.
Oh, well, my name is Dr. James Bruce.
Yes.
I'm a Bostonian, native Bostonian, very proud Bostonian. I was born in 1961, so I come up through several decades of administration, political landscape, cultural changes. And
you look great.
Yes, thank you so much.
That's good.
And I was born and raised in Roxbury.
Okay.
I migrated to other parts of the city, and now I'm in another different city, and other than Boston. I've traveled around the world to more than 70 countries. I've embraced different cultures, languages, people. So I just love people.
Nice.
So I'm here now. I'm an educator, singer, songwriter. It's really about embracing people, the culture, and understanding about humanity, about life, and what it offers, looking at it and how I can critically make a contribution. and to inspire. I've evolved into what I call an inspiration agent.
Inspiration
I'm very clear about what legacy is. Legacy is the inspiration that you leave behind, not the houses, not the money, not the fame or fortune. It's the inspiration. What messages, what value do you leave behind to society, to people you love, people who don't even know you?
Right.
You say, Jensen, where did you learn this from? Well, I learned this from this guy I met a long time ago, or my parents told me this, and that helped me navigate and move in a better positioning in life, and to enjoy and appreciate life for what it is, and appreciate it in special ways.
Nice. Very fascinating background and very talented musician.
Thank you. Yes.
Now, you're also a writer. We would like to know, can you tell us about your journey as a writer and what inspired you to become a writer?
This is kind of like a long story, but it's very interesting, and I think my fate has been laid out for me. I remember back in 1970, that was about 1976.
Right.
And I got my first summer job.
Right.
And it was a summer job, and the minimum wage back then was $2, a whopping $2.30 an hour.
Right.
And I was just 12 years old. I had a very young job. And it was a summer group, bunch of kids. And the pay at the time was like $25 a week. But for me, I felt like I was rich. I gave money to the church. I put aside things. My mom went with me to open a bank account at the old bank. And I began learning economics and saving and planning.
Very
and so
important.
this job, I said, what am I going to do with this job? This particular job was to be a writer. I loved writing and expressing. And with it's a local paper newsletter. It's called RAP, Roxbury Action Program. We had a newsletter.
Okay.
So I was strolling down Dudley Street, and at the corner of Dudley and Harrison Ave, right now as we speak, there's a fire station.
Fire station.
But at the time, in the early 70s, or mid 70s, sorry, there was the fire station was under construction. So there's a big fence around the area that was being dug up. So I looked down, it was a photo album, small photo album, all these pictures of the digging and the bricks going up. I said, wow, it was on the ground.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I looked at it and I wrote a story about the coming fire station.
No kidding.
So that story was published back then. And I got a lot of comments about it, and I really think that's one. And the writing part,
right.
I love speaking, but I think when I write, people write, it's an opportunity that one, they can hold themselves more accountable.
True.
They can be more transparent, and they have an opportunity to reflect on or think about what they wrote.
Right.
And reflect on, so, let me change that word. That's not really what I want to say. Versus just keep on talking.
Right.
And so I enjoy writing, and I said to be able to express what I want to say and explain a lot of different things in writing. So I began writing many years, and when I found that I can use different words to express different emotions and feelings and messages, and I really took advantage of that, and being able to reflect on it, and also to be able to witness my personal development, my
right.
professional development in terms of word usage and reading and writing. So I love writing. So now it's 58 books in.
58 books.
That's under my credit, but I've also did some ghost writing for people.
Right.
And I've assisted other people to write their stories. And in writing the books, I'm very concerned about people not writing and sharing their story. In fact, one of the books is called, it's a book writing guide,
okay.
where I tell people and show people how to write a book. And using a certain methodology that I created, most people who are interested in writing a book, you can do it within 60 days or less.
60 days.
And so in the introduction, I commend, I congratulate, and I applaud all the people who have taken that step to write about their life. Because everyone has a story. Even the little kids and say, Jensen, he hit me, he called me a name. And he said, so tell me about the story. And so everyone has a story and expressing themselves. So this has become a legacy, the stories left behind. So I commend the people who have taken the story, the leap, and are written about their life. And that's their version, and it's to be respected because that's their version. But the same, and conversely, I condemn and damn and shame all the many people who have lived these fruitful and these lives that managed to navigate through these troubles and trials and tribulations and figured stuff out.
Right.
And they've taken all those, I found out, I figured out, to the grave with them. Because they, in my opinion, they're responsible for the people who are left by, who suffer, who die, who struggle, because they were so selfish. They took their stories, figuring out how to come off the drugs, how to buy a house, how to build a family, how to survive through incarceration, how to survive through the military, or to working a job. How do you survive when you have different culture changes and when you're struggling? How do you survive?
Right.
And they take those healthy and fruitful stories away so that people are left behind trying to figure it out. So I encourage people to write and share the story.
Well, I appreciate you encouraging people to write and to share their story. And that leaves a legacy for them. Now, speaking of legacy, this weekend is Dr. Martin Luther King's Day weekend. And so we would like to know, what does Dr. King's legacy mean to you personally, Dr. Bruce?
Wow. Amazing. I would say amazing. He, in my opinion, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he was one of those, not only was he a preacher,
Right.
A man of the cloth, a man of God, he was one of the special chosen ones. We're all special.
Right.
We're all chosen if we activate on that being chosen and are supported in our path and our journey. But he certainly was a prophet. He was a servant. He was a doer. He was a thinker. And he was a communicator. And he was firm. He was serious. He was really, really serious. And he was willing to make that sacrifice. And we should be humble about that sacrifice. And I was listening to his speech this last night, and he got to a point, he says, I'm not afraid. He said, I'm not worried, because I've been to the mountaintop. He said, I've seen the promised land. And so he's really blessed to have had that vision and to see that and be willing to fight and die for that. And that truly was a true leader. We're all leaders in our own way. But the question is, are we willing to die for what we believe in? And he was willing to do that. So certainly he left a good thing. And a lot of people get it a little confused. Get it twisted.
Right.
Some people think that, Martin Luther King Jr., he was just for the black people. Oh, no. He was for everybody. He included the black people because they, at the time, were receiving the most suffrage. But he was talking about everybody. Everybody he was talking about world peace, world leaders coming together, just about humanity, equality, and justice. And in fact, he was as I'm thinking about it, he was like the social prosecutor. And I say that in the sense that he was trying to hold America accountable to the words that they wrote upon which the country was built.
Right.
All men are created equal. He's like, show me. To be a fair and great union. Show me. So he says that we are, the Bible says we're not just speakers, but we're doers of the word. And so he was a really, really good example. So I have a lot.
That's really great. He was indeed a great example, and from his speeches to his writing. Speaking of writing, you're going to deliver a poem to us, right?
That's correct.
That you've written. And so poetry is really important, but I would like to know, how can poetry inspire social change as Dr. King's speeches and writing?
Well, poetry is really a story. It's often used a lot of metaphors.
Right.
And I think one is very interesting in the American English language. We use most of our language, because I'm a teacher and I teach English as a second language.
Okay.
Most of our spoken language and the communication is made up of idioms.
Idioms.
And idioms are those things that we like, oh, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Let me see in that mouth, or something like he ran out like a bat out of hell, different things. And I think with the idioms, it offers an opportunity for people to relax. Relax, at the same time, use some critical thinking. What is he really talking about? What does she mean? And so in his poetry, and so we can take it either in a literal or a figurative sense.
Right.
and it allows the heart and the mind just to open up. So what can poetry do? It allows people to connect with things that they really understand. They understand, and it allows one to be almost entertained at the same time,
Right.
and to receive it with joy, with pleasure, with thought, and being thoughtful, be entertaining. Almost it creates some, especially if it's rhythmic in nature, it causes people to want to like almost anticipate the next word. Roses are red, violets are blue. So we're talking about not only just rhyming, we're talking about colors,
Right.
and a blend. And so you imagine red and blue, so they can give you some association around colors and things like that.
Nice. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing your poem. We're all looking forward to hearing your poem.
Thank you.
But the last question I would like to ask you, all right? Now, with Martin Luther King, he has left a great legacy and we're celebrating his accomplishments. But what is one last thing you would like the audience to continue as far as Martin Luther King's legacy?
I think his legacy overall, as I mentioned earlier, it was not just for black people.
Right.
It was for everybody. And his, I guess the core anchor to his whole message was justice.
Justice.
Justice. Inclusive in justice is fairness, respect, compassion, all those other adjectives and attributes that represent that.
Right.
So justice not only within, for me, relating to the other person, but about myself. The justice, am I right? Am I fair?
Right.
Do I have integrity? Is there some decency, some dignity within that? With the law of nature, God's law, the law of the land, it's about justice, fairness, and justice. And that goes into the preamble of the Constitution,
Right.
with liberty and justice for all. And this is what, again, his message was saying, you're saying justice for all, but I'm seeing justice for some. So the message for the audience or for us, just focus on justice. Am I right? And justice means that would I want them to treat me the way I'm treating them? Is that justice? And we get into fairness. Well, that's not fair, but is it just? You know, and that goes into all of it. If I'm charging, you know, this crazy amount for a book, is that just? Is that fair? Because you had to work so many hours or so much time to produce, to generate this money. Is that fair? If this only cost me so little and I'm charging you so much, is that fair?
Goes back to integrity.
Yeah, integrity.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's what I said. Just focus on justice. But if from me to things, just inspiration. I think he did it not intentionally to inspire. It just happened naturally for people who got it to inspire. And we're looking back, and again, that becomes a legacy. Right. So we're inspired by his energy, his spirit, his determination, his positioning, and his sacrifice. Right. Just inspired by that. And so the question is, what, if I throw out a question, what are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of justice?
Justice.
That's it.
Yeah, justice is very important. Well, Dr. Bruce, I just want to say thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, and thank you so much.
This is a Hero News special in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King's Day, Dr. Martin Luther King's Day weekend. And before we end the show, we actually have a special piece from Dr. Bruce. He will be reciting a poem that he wrote in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Welcome back, and I'm so honored to be here to offer a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And I was just in an interview with Jensen Denoyes, and I'm so honored to be here to offer this at this time. This is a poem I wrote just the other night in preparation for tonight's service. I'm gonna put my glasses. It says, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream that he shared in 1963. Yes, a big dream, a lofty dream, an idealistic dream. A dream for some to be a new world order. A new world order that would render everyone to be blinded to all social ills that divide humanity, particularly in the United States of America. Blinded would be the active word to describe the ability to not see something that would no longer exist. Yes, a new world that would render everyone to be deafened to the hateful words rhetoric and propaganda hurled at those who are vulnerable for the sole purpose to diminish, discount, dismantle, or dismiss people who are different. A hopeful dream where he had described little boys and girls living in a future world where they could live and thrive with other human beings of different color descriptions, who just so happen to come from other communities, cultures, countries, and nations. Yes, a new world order would be represented by a new vision for how people saw and received one another, where people would no longer be focused on the fact that others looked different, spoke a different language, wore different clothing, prayed in their own way, and ate different foods, to name a few. These and more differences that divide us would not be the forced issue of the day, but rather the obvious differences will be the power that bring us together. He had that dream. His dream spoke about this thing called equality. He saw a new world where people were judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. He saw this world of equality where everyone recognized the other as a human being. On the topic of equality, he envisioned all blue-collar workers earning fair and decent wages so they could support their families. His favor for equality included equal pay for women and men, especially if they were doing the same job. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream could only imagine a new world where every legal citizen of age would have equal access to the ballot, with the constitutional right to vote and elect a candidate who they want to represent them. Martin Luther King Jr. had that dream. There is a whole lot more to his big, lofty, idealistic dream. Here it is in the year 2025. 62 years later, in retrospect, in real time, not much progress has been realized. 62 years later, what should have by now been a sweet dream has remained a bitter nightmare. Overall, the hopeful and wishful blindness has not arrived. We still clearly see the many social ills that divide us, even in our advanced society, inundated with higher education and life-changing technological discoveries and advances. We, as a community and a larger society, still have pathetically and alarmingly high population of homeless people, many veterans sleeping on the streets of all major cities, as well as in many smaller communities. The horror nightmare of our society, particularly in America, still curses equal and fair voting and housing rights that are supposedly provided and protected by the Constitution. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a sweet dream, but we are living the horror nightmare. Sadly, with so many opportunities to do better, be better, have better, and see better, we don't. Our ears are open. We are loudly hearing the noise. We still hear the lies, divisive comments, and remarks designed to demean and destroy those people. He had a dream that every man will be free, fully free. Fully free does not happen until we all acknowledge and honor the humanity in the rest of us. Let us come together in harmony. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream. He had a dream that one day we will love one another. He had a dream we'll be sisters and brothers. He had a dream for humanity. Let us come together in harmony. He said we should be judged by the content of our character and not by the color of our skin. We should join hands in love. Let the compassion come from within. What is going on? Is anyone listening? Thank you. Have a good night.